Olivier FLORIAN is a gifted spiritual healer from France who travels worldwide to provide healing for his clients. He has flown from Ireland to New York so that I can interview him about his work as a healer and glean some esoteric insights. His one prayer is that the people who need his healing find him. Hi Olivier, how are you? Welcome to New York.
Hi Katrina, thank you for having me here today.
Olivier is a worldwide healer. When did you discover you had this gift for healing?
Well, that was around when I was 19. I knew all along there were things happening with me, but when I was 19 there was events that started to happen one after the other, and then I started to discover that it was healing. First I didn't know what it was. I had wind in my hands, and there were a lot of things happening for my family, where my family was experiencing healing. I didn't know it was associated with me at the time, just.
And what was your background in before you discovered that you had this gift?
Well, I was on a kind of regular journey. My father is a teacher, so he was very much into education. So I went into engineering. So I have a degree in applied mathematics. I'm an engineer in applied mathematics. And I went through the whole process of what that means. So I was working in the industry, mainly in the pharmaceutical industry, would you believe? And I had a whole career there and ended up operations manager in the end. And but all along, I was doing healing and providing that for people, mainly in a private setting to start with, but then it became bigger and bigger. And eventually I decided I was going to move on to make this my day-to-day job, which is what I'm doing right now. And what I wanted to keep from that career was traveling, because I really enjoy traveling so much. So I put that on the map, and now I'm just coming here to America, but I'm also traveling a lot to Luxembourg and France to provide healing where people are. And
so you have clients all over the world that you actually come and do healing for, and
and if I can't go and meet them, I do that from the distance as well, because you can actually work in a private setting, in a clinic, or you can also do it from the distance, and it's exactly the same kind of potential in terms of recovery for people. So I have clients in Japan, in Russia, in America, of course, and I can't be there all the time, so we do a lot of work from the distance as well.
And you find that even connecting with someone on the phone is as powerful as if you're sitting with them one-on-one in a room?
Well, the challenge, I suppose, is for people, when you're looking at a screen, it's not the same thing, but in terms of the healing potential, it's exactly the same. Yeah.
So tell me why you think people need healing in their life.
Well, people obviously come to me because they are experiencing something, so they might have an illness, or they might be going through a rough time, going through personal relationship issues and things like that. But some people are on a journey as well of self-discovery, so it's very, why you would come for healing. Most of the people who come are searching for a solution for either growing within what they are or fixing something, and they've tried different avenues. Some went down the medical route, some refused to go down that route, and they're looking for a solution to fix something within themselves. So it's very varied. It could be something emotional, it could be something physical, it could be something spiritual. Everybody's kind of looking for their own kind of, I suppose, expansion or fixing within themselves, and that's what I provide help with.
Is it true that sometimes after healing you can actually feel worse before you feel better? Is it like cleaning out a house?
Well, we always hope that it's not like that, but sometimes within the next 2-3 days you might actually feel worse. But that's only very, very temporary, and then you should start to experience what the healing has done for you. And sometimes it's tremendous, because it's really like a life-changing experience. And recently I was talking to a lady, and she called me after a year. We only did one session, and it was her entire life went upside down. She came because she had sinuses problems, but everything changed in her life, in terms of love life, in terms of work, in terms of how she felt about herself. So it's sometimes people come for healing and they think they're only coming for that aspect, but the healing goes way beyond the boundaries of what you come for. It works at every level of what you are, really.
So when you're healing people, you're basically directing them back to their true self and opening that up, giving them that clarity so they can really understand who they are and their essence.
Yeah, so it's connecting with the essence of who you are. So we're multi-dimensional beings. Like sometimes we just believe that's what we are, or we believe that our mind is guiding everything. It's way more complex than that. So it's about addressing the person as a whole and just trying to, I suppose, reach alignment within, so that you can express who you are, what you came here to do, and to the best of your ability, because sometimes we go through conditioning, that prevents us from moving on, or we have developed certain beliefs, or we've developed certain illnesses that are preventing us from achieving what we want to achieve. Because really, life is very open. You have a lot of things that you can do, and most of the expression that we have in this world is down to what we believe in or what we think we're here for. And if we can change that and open up to more possibility, there's unlimited potential there for you to create whatever you feel like creating in this time and space, I suppose.
Do you feel like we're here with a purpose, like a preordained purpose, or we just make it up as we go along? Like, what essentially is our reason for being in this time reality?
Well, first I believe that we have gates that we need to go through. So those ones, you won't be able to avoid them. There are the things that shape your life, and sometimes they are really good things, sometimes they are like accidents or things that we qualify as being bad in our lives. But these are gates, and no matter what you do, you're going to have to go through them because they are shaping your experience. They are allowing for you to grow. And then what happened between those gates is entirely yours, and this is where you have free will. And you can choose an easy path. You can choose like a path of suffering, and and then you move from one gate to the other. The speed that there is between one gate and the other, you decide as well. So it's entirely your say. But I suppose, so we come here to grow. We come here to expand, and we come here to understand what we are as well. Because a lot of this experience is just beyond what we can touch and feel. And once you start to realize that and tap into that, you start to shape your life in a completely different way. Some people talk about manifestation, some people talk about creation. So there's a lot of things that you can start to do, and it becomes a magical experience in a lot of ways.
So is it possible to attract a life that you really want, or are there basically things like karmic things as to why you wouldn't get the things that you think you desire? Like, what's the balance in terms of how much free will you have versus what's actually written that you have to go through that's out of your control?
Well, so I believe that as long as it's aligned with who you are, it's unlimited in its true nature. So wishing for money, wishing for fame, for success, you can do that, but if it's not aligned with your inner self, at some point it's going to fall short, or you're going to be called back to your journey, because you're here to expand, you're here to grow, and it's not only about materialistic things. There's more than that. So you can shape your reality in a lot of ways, but where you go and how much it's a combination, I suppose, of what's written for you, and these are the gates, and what you decide in between. But as long as it's aligned with who you are and it's unlimited in its nature, that's the way I believe it is.
So if you feel like you're having a rough time, things aren't working out for you, is that a sign that you're off path, or is that sometimes something that you need to go through to get out the other side to grow?
Well, first, there are no bad things. That's it's you qualifying something and say this is a bad experience. Yeah. Everything is experience, and everything is there for you to understand something. So I had experiences in my life where everything collapsed, and then I was just looking for a spark somewhere, because there's always a spark that tells you this is why it's happening. So if you're looking for that spark, then you know that the experience that you're going through is actually helping you to grow, helping you to understand something, and you can move away from qualifying this as something bad. Because there's no such thing as a bad experience. It's just experience. If it's good, just take it. If you think it's bad, just take it as an opportunity to grow or expand into who you are.
And how do you define God? And do you feel like we have spiritual guides helping us, getting through our daily life, or are we basically abandoned here on Earth and trying to figure it all out ourselves? How does that work?
Well, a lot has to do with beliefs. A lot of people believe in certain beings or in religion. I certainly believe there's an underlying force that's supporting all of us, that's connecting all of us, and people will qualify it with different names. to me, it doesn't really matter if you call it angel, if you call it energy, if you call it light. It's just an understanding that there's more than what you can touch and feel, and that you can actually work with it, and it's working with you, it's supporting you. To me, it's really infused with unconditional love. That's what it is. And if you realize that it's there, and if you engage with it, it can certainly support you on your journey in a lot of ways.
So we're not really alone, even though sometimes we might feel like we're on our own trying to figure out everything. We actually have a support system that we may or may not see that's going on around us.
Yeah, we're always supported. And if you look at whenever you're in your life and you're going through very traumatic events, like this guy who wants to jump from the bridge, and then somebody turns up and prevents him from jumping, right? That's the help. So the help usually comes in the form of others, but others that are divinely guided to be there in the place when you need them and how you need them. And it worked in so many ways. Recently I had a lady coming and she was talking about how she needed to find love, and there was this huge storm, and she ended up being snowed with a guy for 4 days, and they fell in love, right? So what's the chance of that happening?
That's a great way to put
it doesn't happen, but life provides you with the opportunity, and without even thinking, puts you together, and then you start a new journey, and things start to be completely different from what they were before. And that's the underlying force that's kind of providing you with what you need if you allow, right? So a lot of people don't allow, say, no, that's not for me, and they withdraw from all these opportunities. If you can see the opportunities there, if you can engage and allow yourself to be supported the way you should, then it's unlimited in its true nature. Yeah.
Do you have to ask for help through a form of prayer or just being open? Do you feel like praying is a good thing to help get the things you need in life?
Yeah, I think a lot of people shy away from asking. I think you should, but you should ask really about what's happening here. Right? It's not about money. It's not about success. It's really about here. Right? So as long as you make it something that is about you, is about what you're here for, it's really worth asking, and then support can come in a lot of ways. And you may actually witness that straight away within a couple of hours, a couple of days, and say, "How did that happen?" I said, "Well, you asked for it, and there it is." So. And I suppose the more you work on yourself and the more you align, the more you're going to see that you think about something and it's just there, right? And good or bad, right? Whatever you think, it's actually there. And you are then becoming a co-creator of your experience all the time. And then you need to watch what you're putting up there, because it's there and it's there in no time.
So are you creating reality through your thoughts or your feelings, or is it a mixture of both, thought and feeling?
It's through what you are or who you are. The fact that you are in itself creates something. It sends out like a vibe, and that vibe, resonates with certain things, and certain things come back. So, but when you say something, when you do something, that actually sends either bigger waves. So, and thoughts are the quiet ones, right? But they do the same. So. I suppose anything that you do, you think, or you say will have a tremendous potential. So a lot of people talk about controlling that. For me, it's not about controlling, because if you're controlling, you're not addressing, whatever is happening. So if you're working on aligning everything that you are, your words, your action, and your thoughts with what you believe in or what you're truly inside here, then everything aligns in your life, and then everything flows in a beautiful way. And people say, "How did you achieve this? How did you get there?" Well, it's just because it's here. I live it in here, so it starts to exist on the outside as well.
How do you feel about religion? Do you feel it's very divisive, or is it something that can actually help us? Or is it a matter of which religion you choose, or is it better to be above religion and to meditate and look within when you want to find answers to how to live your life?
Well, I suppose religion is the path, right? So to me, the ultimate goal is spirituality. So how you end up there is different for everybody. Some people will study music, some people will be into mathematics, some people will be into sports, but everybody usually ends up in the same space, a space where you experience like a connection within, where you understand that the only tool that you have is love, and that's the only thing that allows for transformation. So you could use religion as a way to get there, as long as you don't get caught into, or you have to do this, you don't have to turn up in the church. It's not about that. It's about understanding that there's a higher love, there's a higher purpose, and it's about connecting, it's about helping, it's about loving. And the path that you choose is entirely yours. And but if you look at all the different religions, they all teach, it's the same teaching. So that's why I don't really understand why you would oppose one to the other. To me, people come to me, some people are Muslims, some people are Christians. I don't get into religion with people. To me, it's really more about spirituality than religion.
How do you deal with people that you don't necessarily get along with, that you don't enjoy their company, but they're in your life? Maybe they're in your family, maybe they're in-laws, maybe they're people you have to work with, or like, what's the best way to deal with people you basically don't see eye to eye with?
Well, the thing is that if they are there, and especially if they are in your face, there's a reason for it. So I suppose the most important thing is to understand why they're there and what they're teaching you, because anybody that you see out there is only a reflection of yourself. So they're showing you something about yourself, and what you don't like about them is usually something you don't like about yourself. So if you change it here, usually they disappear. Life looks after that. Like a lot of the time you're in the workplace and this person and it's very harassing, things like that. And my teacher told me, Olivier, life goes on. They're not going to be there forever. And then inevitably within 2 months they disappear. The minute you understand their teaching, they move on. And you might be presenting with the next one. And I suppose, again, if you think about alignment, the more you're going to align with yourself, the less of them you're going to see. Because you don't need challenges anymore to remind yourself you need to be working on this, you need to be working on that. Because you are, and you understand your path, and all these big rocks or things on the road are being removed for you because you're reaching alignment. So the more you're working on yourself, the less of them you should see, right? So
the less reactionary you are and the less aggravated you are, because basically they're not going to show up in your life if you're more balanced as a person yourself and you've done work on yourself or you've reached that place.
You need to remember that everything is essentially a projection and it's your own creation. So if there's something you don't like out there, fix it here. Right? A lot of people will spend their lifetime trying to fix it on the outside. It's a waste of your own energy. If you're fixing it here, everything moves on the outside without you having to really get engaged too much on moving those pieces that might be hard to move.
If you want to change, just change yourself, and then your outside world and the reflection of what you attract into your life is going to change too.
So if you get into a place of being pure love yourself, you're going to experience love from everything, from the trees, from the neighbors, from your clients, and it's going to change your experience completely in every way, because you're going to feel loved for who you are, and you're going to feel at your place wherever you are, because everything is a reflection of you, and you're going to recognize yourself in the eyes of others, in the interaction that you have. So
those neighbours that reported me to the town of Greenberg for my driveway and my kitchen cabinets and my unauthorized plumbing without a permit, so basically I attracted all those people into my life on some level.
At some level you did, yes, and it might have been thought that you have about this being you having to be away from your neighbor. It's them and us. And maybe you need to understand unity, like we're one, right? So as long as it's them and you, there's some sort of boundary, and you might bounce on certain things like that. And there's a lot of things that you can do as well with your neighbor with intention to rectify that, even without having to engage with them. If you were to send them love, if you were to consider them differently, do your work inside here, they might completely change attitude and say, how did that happen? How did they change? I didn't never talk to them. Well, you did your work inside here, so that actually shapes the thing differently. It's something I've experienced with my mother. She had a lot of problems with her neighbor and said, well, how about we get them to forget about you for a while and give you some space? And we just went like this. And they never had any interaction again. And my mother said, what did you do? And I said, well, I just shaped the reality the way you wanted to have it, and for you to find a space and for you to rectify whatever needed to be there. So we have unlimited potential to change this reality that we're in. If you understand that, you can start to experience and play with it, I suppose, and see how far you can go. And it's not about manipulating things, it's about rectifying things so that they're right for you. So you could try it with your neighbors if you still have problems with them, and see what...
I could just build 8-foot fence around my property and then see if they go away.
No, because that's only going to make your problem worse. Because you're actually, trying to look away from the situation rather than to look right through. So no fences, never. It's like when people talk about protection, I think it's not the right thing to do. Protection is only keeping you away from love. You should have a heart connection with everybody around you. And if you don't manage to have the heart connection, just stay neutral, right? but no more than that, neutral or love, and that's the only thing that should be allowed with through any, I suppose, interaction with anybody else.
What's the inner work that you could do on yourself? Like, could you describe, have you got a process for that, or do you follow meditation? Like, how would you do that deep work to change from the inside out?
Well, to me, first, it's about recognizing what's happening with you and trying to understand what's happening. So we have huge underlying forces there. Main one usually around fear, some around might be anger. There's usually very, very strong feelings, about 4 or 5 of them. And it's about recognizing that they are there and being fearless about addressing those. It might take a lot of time. Like, I had a fear of lack of money. It took me 10 years to overcome it. So if you were to look within and say, what's happening with me? I'm checking in. What's happening? How am I feeling? Where do I see issues in my life? Where do I see limitations? If you were to do that, you could even draw a map and say, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's happening to me. A lot of these are common to a lot of people, but to a different extent. And if you were to say, okay, I'm going to work on that one and see how I can address that. Is it meditation? Do I need to be talking to someone? Do I need to be going into sports? And and the path will be different for everybody. But as long as you're willing to look into those things, you're making progress because you're focusing on that. So it's in your focus. It's not over there and saying, oh, it does not exist, right? It's right in your focus. And it's starting to change, because whatever you look at, you start to change it. So the simple fact of having the honesty to look at yourself and look at whatever limitation you have allows for you to start to align. And then, do your work, do your homework, do whatever you feel that you need to be doing. Some people are there to guide you, some people are there to teach you, and meditation, of course, is a good practice, but for some people it's not something that you can engage with. It's just too much. To start with, because some people just can't sit still, right? Because they're just too busy, right? So you might just do something before, you might just do some sports or different things that might allow for them to calm down, and then you'll get into a place where they can engage with meditation. Because I believe meditation should be part of the daily practice anyway.
I find it really hard to have that discipline to sit still to do my meditation. I'm working up to it, but I think the most I could do is like 15 minutes. I'm trying to get a little further than that, but
yeah. But the thing is that like there's a lot of things that are misunderstood about meditation, because people say, "Oh, I need to sit," and you're like, it's not like that. You could be meditating when you're doing the washing up, when you're looking outside, as your kids playing. It's really a moment of silence and reflection, and you can have that anytime. You can have that, at the traffic light. It doesn't have to be long, but as long as you're allowing yourself to step out of the business of the mind racing and things like that. You're doing the right thing. 15 minutes a day, you can have it broken down in so many different pieces. That's meditation to me. You don't have to sit down and have quiet music and things like that. Because sometimes this is too harsh on the system because it's such a change compared to what you're doing. As long as you can start to slow down and let the mind wander a little bit away, you're actually getting into a state that's close to meditation, and it's helping you checking in really and getting closer to who you are.
Do you believe we come into this life with karma that we have to put right?
Yeah, well, I do believe we come in this lifetime with two different things, right? So we come in this with the body, and the body holds the memory and the experiences from all your lineage, the good ones, the bad ones, and they shape the way you think, they shape the way you behave. And you would see, for example, in a lot of families, there's repetition. There are families where there's only girls, right? So why? Because it's not genetics, it's just because there's memory there, and unless that memory is being handled, everybody's just going to go through repetitions. So that's one aspect, that's the body. And then there's the soul, right, that has been on a journey as well, and that comes into the body, and you're really at the crossroads of those two things that mix together and create your experience. So that's where you start.
I grew up in a family with 5 girls, and our neighbours, they had 5 boys, and I think their mom wanted a girl, and I think my dad really wanted a boy, so it's just interesting how it works out. So I know you do also some clearings for homes as well, for people's homes and things in their home. Yeah,
that's another kind of line of work, and that's something that I've been asked to do, and it's more like a shamanic practice, where you would do some drumming, some saging, and it's really about restoring the energy of the place, because what people don't realize is that anything that you do is infusing the space, and the space holds that energy, and that energy is being sent back to you. So if you have a lot of arguments, or even in the house, there's a lot of things that happened in the house before you moved in, all that energy is trapped into the space, and you're actually being affected by it. Sometimes people get sick. Sometimes people, like you would see couples that are really like going on well. They move to a new place and instantly they start to argue, and it's just because they don't realize that all the space kind of is starting to affect them. So we always recommend that when you move to a new house, you would do a house energy clearing. But people call us also if they have like paranormal activity. That's something that we don't necessarily talk a lot about. But if you have ghosts or things that are happening in the house, we deal with that as well. So what we do is really provide you with a clean space, and then from that point on, you can start to build your own energy. I suppose, really start from a clean sheet and create your own space. It's not only about painting; it's also about the energy in the space.
How does paranormal activity come about? Like how does that manifest? Or is it from negative energy, or is it just like disincarnated spirits that never made it on their path, or like how do you explain all these paranormals?
Right. So, well, we came across a lot of different forms of paranormal activity, I suppose. One is spirits, that didn't transition into the light, so they're still there. They might have lived in the space, or sometimes people bring them into the space. We were working with a nurse, and somebody passed away in the hospital, and she brought the spirit back home with her. So that's one thing. But then there's some other forms, not necessarily attached to the house, but it could be attached to you. And they could be like they look like bubbles, or they might look like smoke, or they might be more embodied. And there are a lot of different things that I suppose happen around us that we don't necessarily see, and they might affect us in a lot of ways. So being through the healing or through the work on the house, you can actually release that. And sometimes it's almost like people transform personalities because it was affecting them so much, and just releasing that allows for them to just come back to themselves in a lot of ways.
So you send the spirit into the light, and that usually helps remove it from the home.
Well, in my work, I decided not to guide, so that's a very important aspect of my work. I ask for things to be resolved, and I don't decide in what way, because sometimes things get resolved in a way, and you might question the way it is being resolved. One day, a lady came to me for healing because she was being attacked. Somebody was coming to her house with a knife. She felt threatened, and in my vision during the healing session, I saw that lady got beaten up. And I said, that's not what I've asked for. And they answered and said, Olivier, who are you to question the way we rectify things? And on that day, I understood there was no good and bad. So the bad guys that were beating up that lady in the street were actually rectifying something for somebody else. So, and then you can start to see like a life in a completely different light,
So how can we increase our receptivity to higher source in terms of helping guide us through our lives?
Well, I suppose it's like anything. It's just about removing all the clutter that stands in the way. So some people with prayer, we use prayer as a base, but then there are different paths. One path could be through the body. Some people do yoga as a spiritual practice, and through that work on the body, you unlock a lot of things within your body, and you end up in that state of awareness because you can see clearly. Some people will do more a process that will come from the mind, because that's more the process that they're inclined to follow. Some people will use meditation, which is more about silencing yourself. So there are different paths that you can choose. But to me, in the end, you need to look at all different aspects. You need to look at the body, you need to look at the mind, the soul, and the emotions. And there's always something you need to work on in those four areas. And of course, healing can help in a lot of ways. But there's a lot of different self-practice that you can do to get there as well.
Something I actually meant to ask you was, what happens to us after we die? Where do we go, and how does it play out? It's something that I've always been scared in religion,
Well, for me, it's not like that, of course. There's many ways you could say this. Like you could say you're a fraction of the light, or you're part of the love. And when you're finishing on this plane, you're being released into that. So to me, you're kind of an eternal kind of a being, an eternal soul, and you're on a journey. On your journey on this plane, or you might be on another vibration, helping in another way. So whether you repeat a lot, I don't know. It's hard to know. If I had the awareness of, I do have awareness of past lives, and I do remember some of them. But if I had the awareness of the entire journey, I would let you know. But for now, I have only like a fraction of memories that are coming back. But I do believe we transition through multiple life form or life experiences, and that allows for us to expand. But I don't believe in in anything bad. I don't believe that you're being punished. A lot of the punishment is also about how you have your life here, right? And what you have to go through the experience here. So sometimes it's hard enough to be here than to be thinking, if I don't behave well, there's something worse happening after this. I do believe, and if you listen to people who have like a near-death experience, they all report the same thing. It's pure light, it's pure love. All the people that you love who passed away are there to welcome you, and I firmly believe that that's what it is. It's pure love and infinite light as well.
I went to a medium after my dad passed away, and it was something I would probably never do. But after he passed, I just I really need to get in touch with him, and somehow I'm not able to get in touch with him on my own through meditation, and it was something out of character for me. But I felt like that, what have I got to lose? He's already passed over, so let me try and communicate with him, because I had missed saying goodbye to him before he passed away. So do you feel like, so when I went to see the medium, she channeled all these messages from my dad, and it was so accurate because it was stuff that only he would know, and there's no way this lady that I met upstate would have known about it. So do you feel like people have that gift to be able to pass information from other dimensions? Is it authentic?
Well, you have obviously all sorts of people with all sorts of gifts, but I know a lot of people that would have that would be very talented, and you can't deny, because as you experience yourself, when somebody tells you something and it's so specific, and you can't know, then you can't turn down the experience. Even in my family, I had a boy that stayed in touch with his granddad, and then the granddad told him about a jewelry that was hidden somewhere and things like that the child found based on the information that the granddad who passed away provided. So you can't argue that this is not the truth. It's there, and you have to take it for what it is. You just have to be careful when you work with people, and just always keep your judgment for what you're being presented with. Sometimes when you lose your people that you love, you're a bit weak, and just make sure you're not being abused by somebody that wants to make money out of you or just get you in a state of control. But as long as people are genuine, I believe there are people with amazing gifts out there, and all these are showing you about, like you were asking about what's happening after we go away. Give you an idea that we're not finished. We're not finished. We're just transitioning. And what you may find as well as when you're on your journey is that most of the people that you're hanging out with, you've been hanging out with before, and your daughter might be your ex-mom, right? And that's why you're having such an argument together, because she never accepts to be ruled by you because she was the one ruling you before. And there's a lot of things that you get to work together and progress together, and find yourself again on different journey in different circumstances. And that's how, when you meet certain people, you recognize them. You know everything about them. You've never met them, but you know who they are. And it's just not because there's a connection or something. It's just because you've been with them all along. You've been doing generations of work with them, and you know exactly who they are.
When I met my husband, I felt like I'd known him my whole life, and I just met him that week, and we already knew we were going to get married within a week. It was bizarre. I never would have thought that would happen to me.
Yeah, so you probably were on a journey together before, and you're continuing that journey, and that's why you might find as well that there's a lot of the dynamic that is already there, So, and sometimes you might get very irritated about certain things that he's doing, because he's not doing that for the first time in this lifetime. You've been playing that
explains
before.
Why.
But I suppose it's nice to be able to continue the journey with people that you already know. Because you can go way further. Because you imagine with your husband, if you had to do all the discovery about what you already knew about him, you'll probably be the end of your life before you get to work on the real stuff, the stuff that you got stuck on and that now you need to be able to unlock in this lifetime.
We're saving a lot of time, I think.
Yes.
We're on the fast track.